Are we live? Hello? Are we live? I don't know. Uh, hmm. Can't really tell whether I am or not. I guess I am. Fuck it. Let's go with it anyway. First of all, it's 12:30 here in England, so I guess I can say officially now, Merry Christmas. Now, Christmas, of course, is very interesting. So, as you're sitting there today, maybe opening your presents, eating your turkey or goose or chicken or whatever it is you're eating, maybe watching one of the Christmas films that's on every bloody year, maybe engaging in an old Christmas tradition. Well, am I? I want you to think for a moment about the true meaning of Christmas. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, for most people, especially Christians, most people would say the true meaning of Christmas is to remember the birth of Jesus, or the true meaning of Christmas would be something along the lines of it's the day of giving, giving gifts and things, not necessarily receiving gifts, although that is a necessary byproduct, but giving gifts. Some people might say the true meaning of Christmas is spending time with family, that sort of thing, and friends and loved ones. But definitely Christians would say is the Jesus side of it, the whole Jesus side. Now, weirdly, there are a lot of people out there that hate this time of year. Not necessarily Christmas itself, but this time of year. And weirdly, those people are Christians. Because around this time of year, practically every year, that people come out and say that, Christmas is false, it was stolen from other religions, or all the Christmas traditions were stolen, or something like that. And of course, the Christians, they get sick of this every year. Every year it happens. Every year, there's always someone has to come out and say, "Oh, it was stolen from the Romans, or it was stolen from these people, that religion, these people, that religion." And the Christians get sick of it. And I guess that's understandable. Because to the Christians, of course, Christmas is the celebration of the birth of Jesus. And anyone who says otherwise is a heretic, a blasphemer, a liar, a God denier. Right? The problem with that is it doesn't matter how many people and how many times denounce it as all being wrong and that Christmas really is what Christians believe it is. It doesn't stop the facts being true, as people have said about other things. Facts don't care about your feelings. And that is particularly true here as well. Because you might feel that these people saying Christmas is bullshit and it's stolen is wrong, and it might hurt your feelings that people are denouncing your God that you chose to follow. Religion is personal choice. But facts don't care about your feelings. The fact of the matter is, most of the so-called Christmas traditions we have today were stolen from other religions. And one or two other Christmas traditions, for some reason, just changed over the years, and no one knows why. I mean, in that one, I'm referring to Santa Claus. I mean, Santa Claus, of course, is a representation of Saint Nicholas, who was a man who used to give presents to children around Christmas time. I can't quite remember what he used to give them. Hopefully it was something nice. But Santa Claus used to wear green, because it is mentioned somewhere that Saint Nicholas, the actual saint, used to wear a long green coat. So Santa Claus traditionally wore green. Now for some reason he wears red. Santa Claus also used to be relatively tall and thin. Now he's short and fat. Yeah, I'll tell you a couple of interesting things about Christmas. All of the reindeer uh, that traditionally pull Santa's sleigh. You know, there's Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, and Comet and Cupid and Donner and Blitzen and Rudolph. Yeah, they're all girls. Yeah, yep. Because only female reindeer keep their antlers in the winter. And you know, all the other reindeer used to laugh at Rudolph because she had a red nose. Yeah, reindeer are colorblind. And you know, you leave out carrots on Christmas Eve for Santa's reindeer. Yeah, along with cookies for Santa. Yeah, reindeer don't eat carrots. That's ruined your Christmas for you, hasn't it? No, seriously, no. I mean, so some of those Christmas traditions are obviously just wrong, aren't they? Right? You know, Santa Claus has been changed. A lot of things we think about reindeer, especially the actual Christmas reindeer, not reindeer in general, but the Christmas reindeer. You know, the ones that pull the sleigh and everything. You know, with all the songs. Right? It's all bullshit. It's all based on a lie. How can the other reindeer laugh at Rudolph and call her names when reindeer are colorblind, so they wouldn't know he had a red nose? They just hate it when you light a cigarette. They just won't smoke with it. Put the cigar away. That's the smoke later today. Old Christmas tradition. So, as I said, people come out at Christmas, around Christmas every year, and talk about how the whole holiday was stolen from other religions and so on and so forth. And then the Christians get on their high horse and they're all like, oh no, that's all rubbish. And, you know, you're doubting the true word of God and blah, 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 blah. And you get two sides of an argument. Both sides think they're right. Neither side will back down. Neither side will even admit, well, hang on a minute, yeah, that actually could be correct. No, no, it's complete fallacy. No, no, the idea that Christmas was stolen is complete rubbish, and anyone who says otherwise is a heretic. And then you get like the other side that's like, actually, everything about Christmas was stolen, and if you don't believe me, you're an idiot, or some other bad word, I suppose. So I'm here today to. I found a couple of interesting pieces of information. Uh, about the true origins of Christmas. Well, let me start by saying that in order to understand the true origins of Christmas, you'd really have to understand the true origins of Christianity. And I really don't want to go into that. Well, let me just break it down into a small, simple thing. Christianity was not started with Jesus. Jesus was started with Christianity. Ah. In fact, Jesus was mentioned before Christianity in the Quran. But, you know, he's a prophet, I believe. So, what are the origins of Christmas? Now, to hear a Christian say it, the origins of Christmas is quite simple. Christmas is the celebration at the time of the year when Jesus was born. Now, there's a few problems with this. First of all, there is no record of this Jesus ever being born. There's plenty of people whose names would translate to Jesus these days being born around that particular uh, decade. Yeah, it seemed to be a popular name, Jesus. Actually, it wasn't Jesus, it would be Yeshua, or maybe even Yehoshua, which would actually translate into English as Joshua, not English, not Jesus, but it got lost in translation somewhere. Um, but if he really was born, then he actually would have been born somewhere around the summertime, because back in those days the months were in a different order. So if he really was born on the 25th of December, he'd have been born slightly earlier in the year. So yeah, stick that in your pipe and smoke it. Well, that's what the Christians would have you believe. That Christmas is a celebration of the birth of Jesus. The birth of Jesus Christ, as though Jesus Christ is his name. First of all, his name is not Jesus Christ, and his name certainly isn't Jesus H. Christ. Where you get the H from, I have no idea. Harold? Christ is not part of his name. Christ is a position, like priest, pope, vicar, Messiah. It was originally written Jesus, comma, Christ of our Lord, which somehow became Jesus Christ our Lord. Amazing what you can find out, isn't it? If you could actually be bothered to fucking look. Oh no, I just swore. I probably swore already. Anyway, who gives a shit? Anyway, so the Christians are happy to believe it's, the birth of Jesus. And they denounce all claims that it's like born out of, born, be an interesting word there, born out of like pagan traditions and things like that. However, even in Christmas today, there are still indications of its original pagan roots, because it is a pagan holiday, by the way. Spoiler alert. Even in some of the Christmas things we do today, there are massive clues to Christmas's original pagan roots. One of the Christmas carols we sing every year, maybe. I don't know if we really sing Christmas carols anymore. Some people still do, I suppose. Actually mentions the pagan holiday, the pagan festival that Christmas was taken from. Guessing you know which particular Christmas carol I mean. I'll give you a clue. Fa la 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 la. La 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 la. So I can do it without finishing it. Yeah, I'm talking now, deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, fa la 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 la. Join me now in gay apparel, fa la 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 la. Croon the ancient Yuletide carol, fa la 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 la. Yuletide. And of course, every Christmas, you may or may not sit down at some point and enjoy a Yule log. And then, of course, there's a very popular Christmas carol, the 12 Days of Christmas. Now, why is it the 12 Days of Christmas? I mean, you've got Christmas Day, obviously, but you've got the 12 Days of Christmas. Incidentally, it's 5 gold rings, not 5 golden rings. If you're going to teach people the carol, teach them correctly. It's 5 gold rings, and it's actually 4 collie birds, not 4 calling birds. I've never heard of a calling bird, unless that's when your girlfriend rings you on the phone. But no, it's collie birds. and it's gold rings. Stop ruining it. Now, why do we have the 12 days of Christmas? Well, that's because the original pagan festival of Yule, of which we have the mention in the Christmas Carol and the Yule log, was a 12-day festival. So that is 3 mentions within Christmas of the original pagan roots of Christianity. Plus, there's the decoration of the Christmas tree, which obviously not many people know is actually a pagan ritual, which was mainly done by Germanic people. But, rather than me waffling absolute bullshit about this, I'm actually going to use the information I have found. So, the origins of Christmas can be traced back to the ancient Roman and Norse civilizations. The Norse civilization, of course, in their religion was also very, very, very similar to pagan. In fact, we pagans and Norse worship the same gods with almost the same names. In fact, 25th December was not even Jesus' date of birth. The early Christians appropriated what was originally a pagan holiday because it was convenient. Before that, the people of ancient Europe had celebrations of the pagan god Saturn or even Odin at the end of December to mark the shortest day of the year. Indeed, many of the Christmas traditions we have today come from these ancient festivals. Examples of this include kissing under the mistletoe and decorating trees. The origins of Christmas are complex and intertwined with various cultural and religious traditions, including some pagan elements. While Christmas is primarily celebrated as a Christian holiday commemorating the birth of Jesus Christ, it coincides with the winter solstice and incorporates elements from pre-Christian traditions. The winter solstice for the Northern Hemisphere takes place on the 22nd of December, the day when the Earth's axis is tilted furthest away from the Sun. It is the shortest day of the year and is to mark the beginning of winter in the Northern Hemisphere. But it is also a time of hope, because the days begin lengthening again as spring is coming. Ancient civilizations around the world thought this was worthy of great celebration. When the early Christians linked these winter solstice celebrations with Christmas, it simply made the birth of Jesus that much more auspicious. A lot of people in the modern world may not even know that this winter celebration actually has nothing to do with the scriptures and religion. They may even be more surprised to learn that Christmas celebrations, like decorating with holly, putting up the Christmas trees, and kissing under the mistletoe, are rooted in ancient fertility rituals. These are all symbolic acts to celebrate the fertility of the earth and the approach of the sowing season. That's sowing as in planting plants, not sowing as in let's make a dress. Now, of course, before throwing the word pagan around, we should first discuss what it means. Who were the pagans exactly? Paganism was originally a word used by the early Christians to refer to the polytheistic Romans. Paganism, of course, is designed as a derogatory term. It is simply pagan, not paganism. Paganism is, or was rather, and still is today to some degree, an insult towards the people of that particular belief system. It is pagan, not paganism. And I know this because I asked one of their high up people, the equivalent of like a priest. What paganism essentially means is non-Christian. Of course, they could apply to just as well to the Norse people of Scandinavia, the ancient Celts and British Isles. As the Christian missionaries began to roam around Western Europe, trying to force conversions, they used the term pagan to refer to anyone who did not share their beliefs on religion. Their multiple gods were classed within a single category of pagan gods. It was also Christians who came up with the idea that pagans worship the devil, but it's not mentioned here. In the first few centuries of Christianity, the Christians wanted to spread their religion around Europe, but they were also quite fascinated by the religions that already existed. They knew that it would be difficult for ordinary people to completely divorce themselves from everything they'd always known. This included the celebrations for winter solstice. They had to give the people something that was familiar and known. Given that Jesus was born around the same time, it was easy enough to incorporate existing traditions into the celebrations of the birth of Jesus. Now, I will mention here as a little side note, quite a, the origins of Christianity, it's only alluded to here in this article, um, was an interesting idea. The idea of Christianity, for those who don't know, was a way of uniting the peoples of various different religions under one religion, with the basic point of that being to stop all the conflicts and wars and arguments about whose gods or God is better than the others. So the idea was to take something from that religion, something from this religion, something from this religion, something from this religion, yeah, and put them all together into one religion. Because the idea was that if these people saw elements of their religion in this religion, maybe they'd be more likely to go, yeah, okay. And if these people saw elements of their religion in this religion, they're probably more likely to go, okay. Yeah. But the problem was, some of the religions they were trying to combine were at odds with each other. However, some of them did have things in common. There were 2 or 3 religions back in the day that all had the birth of some kind of god around December. So that served to help. But there were many other things that were completely at odds with each other. Some of the religions didn't celebrate what we now know as Easter, and some did. Some didn't decorate trees at the end of the year. Some did. Some didn't do this. Some did. Some did that. But they didn't. So it was very difficult to combine. It was a good idea, but it just didn't work. Anyway, I'm relighting the sticker even though it's already lit. Idiot. The people of ancient Rome celebrated the winter solstice with the festival of Saturnalia. It was meant as a way to celebrate and give thanks to the Roman god of agriculture, Saturn, which the planet is named after. By the time the winter solstice came out, the last planting season had been completed. Thus, the ancient Romans could then happily engage in an entire week of festivities. The Saturnalia festival was usually celebrated between the 17th and 24th of December. Even now, Christmas is not really a celebration of one day. It is called the Christmas season, and festivities start well in advance of the 25th. In the Saturnalia festival, the 25th of December was considered the climax and had a special name, Brumalia. Other than Saturnalia, one of the festivals that had a huge influence on Christmas was Yule. Celebrated largely by the Norse people in Northern Europe, many of the old Yule traditions have become Christmas traditions today. The celebrations lasted for 12 days, and huge bonfires were lit. Feasting and drinking were a big part of the celebrations. The night before Yule was called Mother's Night. The Yule tree was decorated around the time of the winter solstice, and the Yule log would be lit so that families could feast and be merry by the fire all night. The Yule ham was a huge aspect of the celebration, since the boar was sacred to the pagan god Freya. The Christians have appropriated many of the traditions to celebrate Christmas. Freya, of course, is still renowned today, as with several other pagan gods. Um, 3 of the days of the week are actually named after pagan gods: Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But we can come back to that. Another important pagan holiday during the winter solstice was the birthday of the Greek god Dionysus. The Greek god of wine was celebrated with wild revelry, feasts, drunkenness, and merrymaking over 12 days. His birthday was also supposed to be on the 25th of December. The festival was called Bacchanalia and was one marked by wildness and excess. In Finland, the sun goddess Beiwe, Biwi sounds stupid. If it really is Biwi, I do apologize. Beiwe, pronounce it however you like, was celebrated during this time. She was said to ride on a sleigh made of reindeer bones and pulled by a white reindeer. Perhaps she was a precursor to Santa Claus. Well, we all know where Santa Claus came from, Saint Nick, obviously. So, that's some information about Christmas. So, Christmas makes no sense, and we're not just talking about that time that David Bowie and Bing Crosby collaborated on a festive sing-along. Oh, I know some people who hate that song. But obviously I'm one of the people that really likes it. Mainly because I like David Bowie. No, the basic facts of the annual ritual just seem to defy logic and meaning. What do brightly lit trees and mistletoe have to do with the birth of a prophet in Bethlehem thousands of years ago? Interesting choice of words there, birth of a prophet. What does a jolly portly man in red and white garb have to do with Christianity? What's the meaning behind the Yule log? And just what kind of a name is Noddy Holder anyway? The latter question probably defies all historical analysis. Quite good. Um, Scholars have argued about the exact year and date of Jesus' birthday for a long, long time. These arguments can get incredibly nerdy and forehead-clutchingly complex, involving the kinds of biblical code-breaking and cunning conjecture which would make Dan Brown proud. Take the whole issue of the Star of Bethlehem, which shone so brightly and let the wise men, or magi, or kings, whatever you want to fucking call them, make your mind up, to the infant Christ. There have been numerous interpretations of what the star really was, and what its appearance could tell us about the timeline of Christ's life. A paper published by an astronomer back in the 1990s, for example, suggested it was actually a comet which had been observed by other sources in the year 5 BC. BCE now. It did change your article, mate. Or maybe the Star of Bethlehem was actually the light cast by the alignment of the planets Saturn and Jupiter, which occurred in October a few years previous to that. Others contend that September was the actual birth month, getting this from calculations involving John the Baptist's father. Why? Well, according to the Bible, he was at work one day when he was approached by an angel. That's got to be an interesting story to tell your friends, isn't it? Yeah, I was just working when this angel walked up to me and said, hello, you've been drinking? No. Well, anyway, John the Baptist was at work one day when he was approached by John the Baptist's father, rather, according to the Bible, was at work one day when he was approached by an angel and told that his wife was to have a baby. 6 months later, the Virgin Mary was given similar celestial news about her own pregnancy. Now, the thinking is that since John's father was a certain kind of priest who, according to historical sources, would have practiced in June, then Mary must therefore have conceived in December and given birth to Jesus in September. which of course, if you don't know, would actually have been even earlier in the year because September used to be the 7th month. So that would put Jesus' birth in the middle of summer. Of course, others have suggested varying dates for when John's father would have been attending to his priestly duties, and there's really no way of telling for certain. Aside from all that, it's been more generally pointed out that as shepherds were tending their flocks when Jesus was born, it's more likely to have been spring rather than winter. There's also the bit in the Bible reporting a census being carried out on the citizens of the Roman Empire at the time of Christ's birth. Some believe it's unlikely the emperor would have sent his man out to collect the census information in the dire weather of winter, to which others might point out that the Roman Empire's HR department probably wasn't too fussed about the comfort and well-being of their staff. The bottom line is nobody quite knows when Jesus' birthday was, except that it almost certainly wasn't December 25th. So why that date? Some devout Christians have attempted to use the wording of the scripture to justify December 25th as the actual birthday, but the more generally accepted thinking is that pagans were indeed the people whose winter celebrations paved the way for our yearly Secret Santa indecision and Christmas pudding heartburn. Right, and now we have 6 Christmas traditions that link back to pagan origins, or rather 6 Christmas traditions that actually are of pagan origin. I do apologise, I got the name of the article wrong. Gee, what the fuck was that sound? Jesus, what the fuck was that sound? Well, interesting choice of words. What the hell? Christmas tree decorating. Now, that's an obvious one. We sure have taken a lot of inspiration from the Romans, and tree decorating is just another borrowed tradition. Besides feasting, drinking, and exchanging gifts during Saturnalia, Romans also hung small metal ornaments on trees outside their homes. Each of these little ornaments represented a god, either Saturn or the family's personal patron saint. Early Germanic tribes practiced a similar tree decorating tradition, this time with fruits and candles to honor the god Odin throughout the winter solstice. Christians seem to have merged the tree decorating with ornaments, candles, and fruits to make the Christmas tree decorating one extravagant tradition. Five, decking the halls with holly. Fa la 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 la. Why you want to deck a hall? I have no idea. Decking has a different meaning these days. It's that weird floor that you put down, isn't it? No, it means to knock someone out. Mistletoe wasn't the only sacred plant for pagans. Holly was another holy plant. Holly was holy. Holy holly, connected with the god Saturn. During the Saturnalia holiday, Romans made holly wreaths to exchange as gifts for good luck, which is interesting because now we use wreaths for like funerals. Weird. At the time of Saturnalia, early Christians began to celebrate Christmas. However, they were often persecuted for practicing their new religion. It was lucky that Christmas coincided with Saturnalia, as it allowed Christians to harbour a cover for their Christmas celebrations. To avoid detection and make it look like they were celebrating Saturnalia, Christians started hanging holly wreaths around their homes. This allowed them to recognise other Christians and still do something nice to celebrate their sacred holiday. Eventually, as pagans decreased, holly became a symbol of Christmas instead of Saturnalia. 4. Kissing under the mistletoe. Have you ever wondered about the correlation between mistletoe and kissing? Well, funnily enough, the tradition goes all the way back to the pagans. Everyone from the Romans and Celts to the Druids and the Norse had a thing about mistletoe. It was considered to be a highly sacred plant, involved in several pagan rituals. In the Roman world, mistletoe honoured the god Saturn. To keep him happy, they would perform fertility rituals underneath sprigs of mistletoes. Yes, that's exactly what it sounds like. We've certainly toned it down as far as mistletoes are considered and left it with just a simple kiss. Probably a good idea since family is always around. In the world of the Druids, mistletoe symbolised peace and joy. In times of war, If enemies were to meet underneath woodland mistletoe, then they would drop their weapons and form a truce until the next day. In a way, kissing is a form of truce. Yeah, so they used to hang mistletoe in their bedrooms and have sex. Yes, Christmas carols. While the carols we sing for Christmas are undeniably Christian, except deck the halls with boughs of holly, the tradition itself of going door to door singing to your neighbours comes from another pagan tradition called wassailing. The rather funny word comes from the Anglo-Saxon phrase of waes hael, translating to good health. Every year, wassailers would roam through their villages in small groups, singing loudly with the aim of banishing evil spirits and wishing good health to those around them. No wassailing group was complete without their traditional drink on hand, made from mulled ale, curdled cream, roasted apples, eggs, spices, and sugar. That sounds interesting. I guess that became mulled wine. In the 13th century, St. Francis took inspiration from these happy choirs and started the tradition of Christmas caroling. 2. Santa and Christmas stockings. Our current modern-day image of Santa Claus, clad in red fur with a big white beard, was largely developed by Coca-Cola in the 1930s, but not exactly. They're not the only people to blame. But the idea of an old man giving gifts to children dates much earlier than that, back in the time of the pagans. Father Christmas, otherwise known as St. Nicholas, was a patron saint of children, the poor, and prostitutes. Weird combination. Poor underage prostitutes. Terrible. Living around 4th century AD, St. Nicholas was a generous bishop who was known for giving gifts to the poor, sporting a big beard and a long cloak much like the Santa we know and love. Of course, his long cloak was green. But even before St. Nicholas, there was another bearded old man called Odin. He summons now the warriors of the night. Feel the burning touch of Odin. This deity was worshipped by early Germanic pagan tribes, including those living in England at the time, although England wasn't called England back then. Traditionally portrayed as an old man with a long white beard, with an 8-legged horse called Sleipnir, who he would ride through the skies just like Santa's reindeer. During the winter, kids would fill their booties with carrots and straw and leave them by the chimney for Sleipnir to feed on. Odin would fly by and reward the children with little presents in their booties, much like we do with Christmas stockings today. The Santa Claus we all imagine in our heads today is a mishmash of the generous St. Nicholas, the god Odin, and Sleipnir, and of course Coca-Cola's iconic red character. And of course, number 1, gift giving. Not only is December a time to celebrate winter solstice, but between the 17th and 24th of the month, the Romans also celebrated Saturnalia. This was a pagan holiday in honor of the agricultural god Saturn. Romans would spend the week of Saturnalia much like how we spend Christmas holidays today. Feasting, drinking, giving gifts, and being joyful. I wonder where crackers came from. These days, we fork out lots of money on Christmas gifts, and of course fork lots of food into our mouths, but back then the Romans exchanged small gifts for the sake of good luck. The idea was to give a gift in the hope of bringing in a bountiful harvest the next year. Rather than have huge lists of gifts to give, the Romans also shared only one gift with one other person. Somewhere along the line, giving gifts for luck and prosperity became a multi-million-dollar business. Isn't that funny? Well, there you go. The original Christmas. Now, of course, a lot of people out there have already presented much of that information, maybe not quite that clearly and concisely. Well, I say clearly, I probably wasn't too clear about it, but maybe not as concisely rather, because a lot of people who go on talking about how Christmas is a pagan tradition, they don't really have all the information, which is what allows people to sort of like denounce their claims as being false, right? Especially a lot of devout Christians out there. But there are a lot of Christians out there, and I have spoken to some, who actually completely understand and acknowledge that Christmas is an old pagan tradition that was stolen by Christians. it doesn't stop them celebrating. And of course, that leads me nicely on to some interesting videos that have been posted onto TikTok recently. I don't watch TikTok. The only TikTok I see is when people react to it here on YouTube. That's it. But apparently, there's been a lot of videos being posted on TikTok and even possibly onto YouTube and other websites recently, talking about the problems with Santa with regards to Christianity. The premise of the idea is this: I'm not going to tell I'm a Christian. I mean, I'm not a Christian, but like the premise of the idea is this: I'm a Christian, and I'm not going to tell my children about Santa as well as telling them about Jesus. Because as I get older, as they get older rather, and I eventually tell them that Santa Claus doesn't exist, they might also stop believing in Jesus. That's the premise of the idea. So you're going to deprive your children of the excitement of Santa bringing them presents simply because you want to continue to force your religion on your children rather than giving them the choice themselves. Funny, you'll allow your child to decide what gender they are, but you won't allow your children to decide what religion they want to follow. Interesting. Now, I have an interesting counterpoint to this, and I usually say it in the form of a joke. What's the difference between Jesus and Santa Claus? One is real and the other is Jesus. Because there is no record of Jesus ever being born, dying, or resurrecting other than the Bible, which was written by the Christians in the first place. The Romans, of course, kept meticulous records of everything, and the Romans have no mention of this so-called Jesus who worked miracles, or anyone by the name of Yeshua or Yehoshua who performed miracles. So, yeah, there is no historical record of Jesus Christ. And I believe I have an answer for that. And it's an answer that probably some of you may know, the intelligent out there who have probably analysed this themselves. But I'm guessing probably a lot of you don't. The reason there is no historical mention of Jesus, apart from the fact that that obviously means he didn't exist, is because the origins of Christianity was not what we think of it today. See, Christianity today, and Christians today, believed Jesus really was born, he really did die for our sins, he really was resurrected, he did feed the 5,000 and the 4,000, which is hardly ever mentioned. He really did walk on water, turn water into wine, heal the sick, raise Lazarus from the dead, and so on and so forth. However, the original Christians, what we now refer to as Gnostic Christians, didn't believe any of that was true at all. They saw the Bible, especially the New Testament of the Bible, as a series of allegorical tales by which one should live their life. It was the rise of what we now call literalists that causes all the problems. Because they went around saying that Jesus really did exist, really did do all these things. And if you don't believe us, you're a heretic and a blasphemer, and you must be destroyed. By which they mean killed. Yes, these so-called peaceful Christians who their God died for their sins committed the sin of murder to anyone who didn't agree with them. Eventually, the literalist Christian movement became larger than the Gnostic Christian movement, the original Christians, and therefore the Gnostic Christians that started Christianity were all essentially wiped out. And any and all records of them, including any paperwork or whatever they had, was all destroyed as well, because of course history is written by the victors, as Winston Churchill said. So only small pieces of information about the original Gnostic Christians are still out there to be found, some of which is probably hidden within the Vatican. And the only information, well, not the only information, but most of the information you can find about Gnostic Christians on the internet, if you look on the internet, is all absolute bullshit. It ties Gnostic Christianity in with like old pagan rituals, which I mean technically is correct, but I mean like sacrificing animals and stuff like that. And it basically calls Gnostic Christianity almost like a cult rather than the religion that is Christianity today. And yeah, so that's why there's no record of Jesus, because originally the Christians didn't even believe Jesus really existed. It is the newer Christians that believe Jesus really did exist, which obviously goes against the whole idea that there's no record of it. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on that matter. Um, oh yeah, there's one other thing before I end this live stream. Um, I want to send a message to all the Catholics out there, every Catholic around the world, no matter who you are or where you are. Catholics are Christians. The amount of Catholics I have met that said, I'm not a Christian, I'm a Catholic. Catholics are Christians. Catholicism, or Roman Catholicism, is one of the three major branches of Christianity. And if you say, I'm not a Catholic, I'm not a Christian, I'm a Catholic, or you say Catholics aren't Christians, you're just showing yourself to look foolish. Because even the Catholic website, there's a Catholic website, even the Catholic website says Catholicism is one of the three main branches of Christianity. If your own website says you are Christians, then you are bloody well Christians, aren't you? And that's all I have to say on that. So thank you all for watching this live stream, or later on if you're watching it as a video. Thank you, and enjoy your Christmas, of course. Uh, enjoy celebrating most of pagan traditions. So I couldn't help putting that one in, and well, just have a good time. Basically, be nice to your family. Get really drunk. Eat way too much food. Maybe pull a couple of Christmas crackers. Put your little paper hats on. Tell the stupid jokes. I know we all hate the jokes, and that's the whole point. The whole point of Christmas cracker jokes is they're supposed to be crap. Who'd have thought it? And for those of you who it's not Christmas yet, who are like behind me in the timeline, Americans and whatever, you're about 8 hours behind me or something like that. The time at the moment for the end of this video is about 1:18, so coming up to 1:20. So I'm guessing you're going to be watching this video a lot later. Then again, I'm guessing most of the people in England are going to be watching this a lot later, because who's getting up at 1 o'clock in the morning to watch a fucking YouTube video? Then again, who stays up till 12:30 in the morning to record a YouTube video? Someone with a lot of time on their hands. Anyway, so thank you all for watching. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I mean, I'll probably release a new video before New Year anyway. Stay tuned for more videos coming from me, including more gaming videos. And, well, enjoy the 12 days of Yule. Or Saturnalia. Whatever you want to call it. Ho, ho, ho. Happy Yule. Oh! I just scared the shit out of a lot of people. One more thing. Around this time of year, always remember, and I'm talking specifically to Americans here, although also people right here in England, Always remember, it is Merry Christmas. It is not Happy Holidays. It is not Happy Christmas. And it is not season's greetings. It is Merry Christmas. If you say it any other way, you're a fool. You're a woke lefty liberal, is what you are. And we have enough problems with woke lefty liberals as it is, without them ruining Christmas for us. Even though Christmas is not real. But yeah, we're also used to saying Merry Christmas, so just continue to say Merry Christmas and stop trying to look so inclusive. And Happy Holidays. Happy Hanukkah, for fuck's sake.